Welcome to the Lies Disguised as Truth podcast. Let's start the show.
All right, strap yourselves in, because today we're diving deep into some really fascinating and maybe even a little bit unsettling territory. We're going to be talking about MJ-12 and its alleged connection to, get this, alien presence on Earth. We're talking government secrecy, extraterrestrial encounters, the whole 9 yards.
It's a topic that's captured imaginations for decades, hasn't it? It's like trying to piece together a puzzle, but with some pieces missing and others that might be intentionally misleading.
Exactly. We've got these declassified documents, insider reports, analyses of UFO phenomena. It's a lot to sift through. We're going to try to make sense of it all today.
It's a real deep dive.
Absolutely. And we're going to try to do it in a way that's approachable, whether you're a seasoned UFO enthusiast or just starting to explore this fascinating subject.
Right. So let's start by setting the stage a bit. What exactly is MJ-12?
Well, the story goes that MJ-12, which stands for Majestic 12, was a clandestine group allegedly formed by President Truman back in 1947.
In the wake of the Roswell incident, right?
That's the theory, and their alleged purpose: to manage the presence of extraterrestrial life on Earth.
A pretty tall order, if you ask me.
No kidding. And the sources we're looking at claim this group was made up of some serious heavy hitters, top scientists, military leaders, intelligence officials, the kind of people who operate in the shadows.
And they operated under the highest level of security clearance imaginable.
MAJIC, right?
That's right, MAJIC, which stands for Majority Agency for Joint Intelligence Controlled. It was a level of secrecy that rivaled or even surpassed anything else in the government.
It's like something out of a spice thriller.
Absolutely. And according to these sources, MJ-12 reported directly to the president, operating with a level of autonomy that's almost unimaginable.
It makes you wonder, what kind of power did they wield? And what lengths did they go to in order to keep their operations secret?
That's a question that haunts this entire topic, and it gets even more complicated when you consider the alleged involvement of other groups like the Jason Society.
The Jason Scholars, right?
Yes. These were brilliant minds, often scientists and academics, who were allegedly brought in by President Eisenhower to investigate the alien question.
And the sources suggest that the top 12 members of this group became MJ-12.
Precisely. It's a fascinating theory, but one that raises even more questions. How did they manage to keep their activities hidden from the public for so long?
And where did their funding come from? You don't run a secret operation of this magnitude without a serious cash flow.
Well, some of the documents we've uncovered suggest they may have used some questionable methods to secure funding. There's even mention of using the illicit drug trade to generate revenue.
That's a pretty shocking claim. Are you saying they were involved in drug trafficking to finance their operation?
That's what some of the sources allege, and they justified it by claiming it was a way to eliminate weak elements of society.
It's a chilling thought. It paints a picture of an organization that operates outside the law, willing to do whatever it takes to achieve its objectives.
And that brings us to the heart of the matter. What were those objectives? What were MJ-12's goals in all of this?
To manage the alien presence, right. But what does that actually mean? Were they trying to communicate? To learn from them? To protect us from them?
That's what we're going to try to unpack. And one of the key pieces of this puzzle is Project Aquarius.
Project Aquarius, this was supposedly a massive undertaking to gather information about the history of alien presence on Earth.
Going back thousands of years, according to these sources, they claim they uncovered evidence of alien interaction with ancient civilizations, even mentioning specific cultures like the Basque people and the Syrians.
Wow, that's mind-blowing. So they weren't just looking at recent events, they were trying to trace the history of alien involvement with humanity back to its roots.
That seems to be the implication. And Project Aquarius wasn't just one big project. It had sub-projects, each focusing on different aspects of the alien presence.
Like Project Plato, which focused on establishing diplomatic relations with extraterrestrials.
Imagine that, government officials sitting down with beings from another world, negotiating treaties and agreements. It sounds like something out of science fiction.
But according to these sources, it was happening. And one of the key outcomes of this project was a treaty between the U.S. government and these extraterrestrials.
A treaty that some sources claim was illegal under the Constitution.
A secret, potentially illegal treaty with aliens. What could it have said?
Well, the sources claim that in exchange for access to advanced alien technology, the U.S. government agreed to keep the alien presence a secret.
And there's another disturbing detail, right? The alleged allowance of human abductions as part of this agreement.
That's what some of the documents suggest, and it raises some serious ethical questions. Did the government really make a deal that allowed aliens to abduct people? And if so, what were the terms?
It's a chilling thought, and it makes you wonder, what else were they willing to compromise on in order to gain access to this alien technology?
Right, and it's important to remember that we're dealing with a lot of speculation here. It's difficult to verify these claims, But the information itself is incredibly thought-provoking.
Absolutely. And it's just the tip of the iceberg. We haven't even touched on projects like Sigma, which focused on communication with extraterrestrials.
Or Red Light, which allegedly involved the testing of recovered alien craft.
This is getting really interesting. So we've got diplomatic relations, communication, secret technology. It sounds like MJ-12 was building an entire infrastructure around this alleged alien presence.
That seems to be the implication, and it raises the question, why? What was their ultimate goal?
And perhaps even more importantly, if this is all true, what does it mean for us? For humanity. So we've got this incredible story unfolding, a tale of secret organizations, clandestine meetings, and technology that seems straight out of science fiction. But is there any actual proof to back up these wild claims?
That's where things get a little murky. The sources we're examining allege a massive cover-up operation, making it incredibly difficult to separate fact from fiction.
It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
Exactly. But there are some tantalizing leads, whispers of recovered alien craft, and even extraterrestrial bodies.
You're talking about the Roswell incident, right?
Roswell is certainly the most famous alleged UFO crash, but these sources claim it's not the only one. They specifically mention Aztec, New Mexico, as another potential crash site.
Aztec, I haven't heard much about that one.
It's not as well known as Roswell, but some researchers believe it might be even more significant.
And remember, Project Pounce, the one tasked with recovering downed craft.
Right, the cleanup crew. These sources suggest they were incredibly efficient, operating in the shadows, leaving no trace behind.
Like ghosts. But if they were so good at covering their tracks, how do we even know any of this happened? It seems like a lot of speculation based on flimsy evidence.
Well, it's important to remember that we're dealing with leaked documents, insider testimony, and a whole lot of circumstantial evidence.
It's like piecing together a puzzle with half the pieces missing.
Precisely. But even with those limitations, there are some compelling details. They describe autopsy reports, documentation of different alien species, and even evidence of alien bases right here on Earth.
Hold on, alien bases on Earth, not just on the moon.
That's what some of the sources claim. They point to the Four Corners area of the United States, where Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona meet, as a hotspot for alleged alien activity.
And they mention one base in particular, right? The Dulce base.
Dulce base. It's become almost legendary in UFO circles.
What's the story there?
Well, the sources describe it as a massive underground facility located near the town of Dulce, New Mexico. They claim it's a joint operation involving both humans and extraterrestrials.
Humans and aliens working together. What could they possibly be doing down there?
It's a disturbing thought. The sources mention genetic experiments, mind control research, even the development of advanced technologies based on alien knowledge.
That's some scary stuff.
And remember those alleged human abductions we discussed earlier? Well, the sources claim they were happening long before the 1970s, and the purpose might have been far more sinister than we initially imagined.
Sinister? How so?
Well, these documents allege that abductees were subjected to all sorts of invasive procedures.
Like what?
Taking biological samples, surgical operations, even implantation of tracking devices.
Tracking devices? Like somewhere alien GPS?
That's the implication. They claim these implants were incredibly small, practically undetectable, and often placed near the optic nerve in the brain.
What could they possibly want to track in our brains?
The sources suggest it was a way for them to monitor and potentially control the abductees. Some even estimate that as many as 1 in 40 people might have been implanted.
1 in 40, that's a lot of people. Would there be some noticeable effects? Some widespread behavioral changes?
That's where the cover comes in. The sources claim that MJ-12 went to extreme lengths to keep this information hidden, discrediting witnesses, suppressing evidence, and manipulating the narrative.
So they were controlling the information, shaping the story to fit their agenda. It makes you wonder how much of what we know about this topic is actually true.
That's the challenge, isn't it? Trying to piece together the truth from a fragmented and often contradictory collection of information.
What about those cattle mutilations we talked about earlier? Were those connected to this alleged alien activity as well?
The sources definitely draw a connection. They suggest that these mutilations weren't random acts of animal cruelty.
They had a purpose.
According to these sources, yes. They claim the aliens were collecting biological samples, perhaps for genetic experiments or even as a source of sustenance.
It's a pretty disturbing thought. And they mentioned those mysterious black helicopters being involved, which always adds an extra layer of creepiness.
Right, the black helicopters, they've become almost symbolic of the shadowy forces at play in this whole UFO phenomenon.
So we've got aliens, secret bases, abductions, implants, a massive cover-up. What happens if the truth gets out?
That's a question that seems to have preoccupied MJ-12. The documents we've uncovered outline several contingency plans, and let's just say they're not very reassuring.
Not reassuring. What are we talking about here?
One plan, referred to as Plan A, involved using disinformation to create confusion and mislead anyone trying to uncover the truth.
It's a classic strategy, muddy the waters so no one can see clearly.
Exactly. But if that didn't work, they had a Plan B.
And what was Plan B?
Well, that's where things get really dark. Plan B involved declaring martial law, establishing concentration camps, and taking complete control of the media.
Concentration camps. Are you serious?
That's what the documents suggest. They were prepared to round up anyone deemed a threat, anyone with implants, anyone who spoke out against the government.
That's a terrifying scenario. It's like something out of a dystopian novel.
It's a chilling reminder of the potential for abuse of power, especially when dealing with something as sensitive as this. And it raises the question, were they truly trying to protect humanity, or were they simply trying to protect their own secrets?
Right. And if they were so worried about the public finding out, did they have any plans to fight back against these aliens? Or were they just going to roll over and surrender?
Well, according to the sources, they weren't just sitting idly by. They were actively developing secret weapons projects designed to defend against a potential alien threat.
Secret weapons. What kind of weapons are we talking about?
The documents mention projects with names like Gabriel, Joshua, and Excalibur.
Those names sound like something out of a comic book.
They were allegedly sonic weapons, capable of generating high-frequency or low-frequency sound waves that could disrupt alien technology.
Sonic weapons. That's a pretty interesting concept.
It plays on the idea that even advanced technology might have vulnerabilities that can be exploited.
I guess that makes sense. But did they have anything more conventional?
Well, then there's Project Excalibur.
Excalibur, what was that?
That was a nuclear missile designed to destroy underground alien bases.
A nuke. Wow, they were really preparing for war, weren't they?
It seems that way. They saw these aliens as a potential existential threat, and they were willing to use any means necessary to defend humanity.
It's a sobering thought. It makes you wonder, are we truly alone in the universe? And if not, are we prepared for what might be out there? All right, so we've uncovered a lot of unsettling information. Secret organizations, alien encounters, advanced technology, potential threats to humanity. It's a lot to process. But amidst all this, one question keeps coming back to me. What do these aliens want? Why are they here?
It's the ultimate question, isn't it? And the sources we've been examining, well, they offer some intriguing possibilities, but also some unsettling ones, to be honest.
Intriguing and unsettling. You've got my attention. Lay it on me.
Well, some of the documents suggest that certain alien species might view humanity as a resource, like something to be studied or exploited or maybe even controlled.
So not exactly friendly neighbors. More like cosmic landlords with a not-so-great track record.
That's one way to put it. It paints a pretty bleak picture, I know. But we have to consider all the possibilities, right?
Absolutely. Knowledge is power, even if it's disturbing knowledge.
Exactly. So with that in mind, some of these sources, they even hint at a potential takeover scenario, like Earth's resources or its strategic location. Maybe it becomes valuable to these extraterrestrial visitors.
So Independence Day, but maybe very less dramatic and a lot more long game.
It's a possibility we can't rule out. And that's where those contingency plans we discussed earlier, those really come into focus.
The martial law, concentration camps, the whole 9 yards.
Exactly. It seems like MJ-12, they were preparing for a worst-case scenario, a conflict with a technologically superior force, and they weren't afraid to take drastic measures to ensure survival.
It's a chilling thought. But what about those benevolent aliens we talked about earlier? The ones that Project Sigma supposedly identified? Could they be potential allies in all this?
That's where things get really tricky. The sources, they do mention some alien species that might be sympathetic to our situation, but they also emphasize this principle of non-interference.
Non-interference, meaning?
Meaning they're hesitant to directly intervene in the affairs of less developed worlds like ours. You know, they don't want to disrupt our natural evolution.
So even if they wanted to help us, they might not be allowed to. It's like watching someone drown while a lifeguard stands by, bound by some ridiculous rule.
I know, it's frustrating. It seems like they're observing us, studying our reactions, maybe judging us.
Like we're part of some cosmic reality show.
Maybe, but there's another possibility we have to consider, and it's a bit unsettling.
Even more unsettling than alien overlords and forced relocation. Okay, hit me.
Well, some of the sources, they suggest that these aliens aren't just watching from afar, they're already here, integrated into our society, pulling the strings from behind the scenes.
Wait, are we talking Men in Black territory here? Secret agents and mind-wiping?
Well, the Men in Black are certainly a part of the lore, but these sources suggest something even more insidious. They describe alien beings disguised as humans living among us, influencing governments, corporations, maybe even religious institutions.
So, not just watching us, but actively shaping our world. That's a whole other level of creepy.
It really is. It raises questions about free will, about whether we're truly in control of our own destiny.
It's like something out of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but on a global scale.
The sources are pretty vague on the details, but the implications are pretty clear. We might be pawns in a game we don't even understand.
And the stakes are incredibly high. The fate of humanity could be hanging in the balance.
It's a sobering thought, but it's important to remember that we're dealing with a lot of speculation and unverified information.
Right, it's all very X-Files. But even if only a fraction of what these sources claim is true, it's pretty mind-blowing.
Absolutely. It challenges our understanding of the world, of our place in the universe, and it raises questions that we may never have definitive answers to.
I think that's what makes this topic so fascinating and so terrifying. We're grappling with the unknown, with forces that are beyond our comprehension.
Exactly. It's a journey into the heart of mystery, and while we may not have all the answers, the search itself is incredibly valuable.
Well said. We've explored a lot of ground today, from the alleged existence of MJ-12 to the possibility of an alien presence here on Earth. We've delved into secret projects, contingency plans, and even the potential for a cosmic conflict.
It's been a wild ride.
It certainly has. And I want to thank everyone for joining us on this deep dive into one of the most fascinating and perplexing mysteries of our time.
Keep your minds open, keep asking questions, and never stop searching for the truth, even if it's out there, somewhere in the vastness of space.
Thank you for listening. Before you leave, be sure to hit that like button, click subscribe, and turn on notifications to not miss an episode as the Lies Disguised as Truth podcast.